Hi, everybody, and welcome to Open Mic Marketing with Liz Scott. So I am Liz Scott, obviously, and welcome to the September edition. So happy back to school for all of you who have school-aged children. So let me tell you a little bit about Open Mic for those of you who are joining us for the first time. There's a number of ways that you can get your questions asked. So we devote this half an hour once a month to helping entrepreneurs grow their businesses by giving the opportunity to ask sales and marketing and or business development questions. So while we're waiting for everybody to join the call, let me just explain a couple of ways that you can get your questions answered. So you can raise your hand and I will periodically look for folks who have their hand up. I've got everybody on mute right now, but I will unmute you if you raise your hand, and then you can ask the question and I will answer it directly. The second way that you can go about asking a question is to type your question into the chat box. And again, I will periodically be checking and I will answer your question directly. There's a couple of folks who feel a little bit shy about asking their questions right out loud. And then the interesting thing for me is I'm starting to get a lot of questions via email. So people who, I guess, something comes up throughout the course of their day and they think, wow, this would be a great thing for Liz to answer on Open Mic Marketing. So I have a number of questions that have been submitted to me, and I will try to get through as many as I can. I do only devote a half an hour because I want to be respectful of your time, and I know most entrepreneurs are busy. So we do run it once a month, and it's always from 12 till 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, and I will continue to let you know when the next ones are coming up. So a little bit of background about me. I did spend 25 plus years in the high-tech industry as a sales and marketing vice president, and had the benefit of working for startup organizations as well as Fortune 500 organizations. And so I really got to see the best of both worlds in terms of best practices. Left the corporate world and started my own coach and consulting practice. So I am a certified International Coaching Federation coach, and I also do consulting work with entrepreneurs and small business owners, either through group programs or on an individual one-on-one basis. So I started Open Mic Marketing. We're almost coming up to our 1-year anniversary. As I said, just as an opportunity for you to get your questions answered and to start to build a comprehensive portfolio of questions that entrepreneurs often have about sales and marketing. So I will be putting the entire year's worth of portfolio up on my website for you to download and review. So we did have a couple of questions left over from last month that I didn't get the opportunity to answer. So I'm going to go through them and read through them first, and then I will open the panel up and see what questions we've got for today. So let's jump right into the first question. Okay, so the first question comes from Janice, and she says, hey Liz, I know that speaking is a great way to generate new clients. I'm not sure that I'm creating my presentations in the best way. Is there a formula that I can follow? So that's a great question, and of course public speaking and presentations are in fact a great way to generate new clients or to fill your sales funnel. And you've heard me talk about this on previous calls, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But let's talk about doing presentations and what the actual purpose behind it is. So fundamentally, there's two different kinds of presentations that people will do. One is you want to use it more from an inform and educate perspective. So you have some information that you want to share with your ideal target audience, and I will tell you what the steps are to do that, and to create a comprehensive presentation. The second thing that people do is they do presentations or talks with the what I call speak to sell formula, which is really that the entire presentation is geared towards making an offer at the end of the presentation and then having people sign up for the offer right when you are actually live on the stage. I really don't recommend the speak to sell model unless you're highly, highly, highly experienced, and also you've got a smoking hot thing to sell. I think people are getting very jaded with the speak to sell. I know a lot of people still do it. That's their preference. So I'm going to assume that what you're talking about here is that you want to do a presentation where you are predominantly educating and informing. So if that's the case, I'm going to give you a very simplistic formula that you can follow that will give some flow to your presentation. So let me just preface that by always saying that if you don't get your question answered on the live open mic, or you get a question answered and you would really like to do a deeper dive or get more information from me, I'm always happy to take your calls or get your emails and to continue the dialogue. I try to answer the questions as best as I can when we're on our live sessions, but I know that I can't always get to it. Okay, so let's talk about creating a very simplistic educate or inform presentations. So basically you want to start out with an agenda. So you want to have a page, and I'm assuming you're using some sort of PowerPoint deck, and or you're speaking from notes that you've got. So what's the agenda? In other words, what are you going to talk about? And I want you to remember that you need to address the problems that your target audience has. Then you need to identify who the presentation is for. So yes, they're probably in the audience, but what you want to try to do is identify who your exact ideal client is. And then you want to provide them with 3 to 5 points that are going to address the issues that your target audience have. So 3 to 5 points, 3 to 5 slides, whatever that looks like for you. But what you don't want to do is go into too much. People are not going to be able to absorb more than sort of 3 to 5 general points. Typically, you're going to be speaking anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. And then you want to summarize at the end what you've told them. And then you want to lead them into some sort of call to action. So the call to action is, what do you want them to do next? Do you want them to sign up for your newsletter? Do you want them to go to your website and do a download? Do you want them to do a complimentary strategy session? So whatever it is that you want, that's your call to action. That's going to move them through your sales process. So agenda, identify who your ideal client is, 3 to 5 interesting points, summary, and call to action. That's fundamentally a traditional kind of inform and educate flow for presentations. So hopefully that answered your question. It's a great question. I've seen some amazing presenters and I've seen some horrific presenters. So again, feel free to have that conversation with me if that's something that you would like to pursue. So let me go to the next question that we had left over. In fact, this is the last question that we had from last month. So the question is, how important is it in an early stage business to have a marketing calendar laid out, and how far in advance should I build it? So how important is it in the early stage businesses to have a marketing calendar laid out? Okay, so great question. I think you've heard me speak before that only roughly 20% of entrepreneurs have an actual marketing plan or any kind of formalized marketing calendar. So I love an annual marketing calendar, but I realize that that's completely intimidating for a lot of you. I do take a look at a 90 to 180 day calendar. But here's what I recommend. If you take an annual calendar, and I mean, you can physically do this on an actual calendar or do it virtually in Excel or Outlook, what you want to do is try to put down all of the major things that you know you're going to have over the coming year. So what do I mean by major things? So any speaking engagements that you have, any conferences or trade shows that you're going to attend or exhibit at, any workshops or webinars that you know you're going to hold, you want to just put your major events down on your annual calendar. And then, and you can do this for 180 days as well if the whole annual thing gets to be too overwhelming for you. And then what you want to do is you can make it as detailed as you want to. So you can go very, very granular, where for 90 to 180 days, you say exactly when you're going to write your blogs, when you're going to write your newsletters, when you're going to launch a major campaign or launch a new product or service, and then basically follow what your marketing calendar says. So, you know, why is it important? It's important for a number of reasons, but the predominant one is that the marketing calendar acts as a plan and an anchor for you, because it's easy for new entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general to become very unfocused on what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So the marketing calendar is just a way of you saying, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. This is my focus. And then, of course, you always want to look back and say, how successful was that for me? So if you're doing a campaign, how successful was that for me? If you did a speaking gig, how many people are reading your blog? So it's a way of checking in to monitor your progress as well. So yes, I highly recommend that you do a marketing calendar for at least 90 days. That gives you sort of a quarterly look, that you do review it. I will leave it up to you to say how detailed you want it or not. Try it for 6 months, see how it works for you. So hopefully that answers your question. And by the way, if you guys would like a marketing plan template, please feel free to email me at lscott@affinitycoach.com. I have an amazing template that I created, and I am happy to share that with you. Okay, so the next question that came in, and we've actually had this question before. Hi Liz, I'm a new entrepreneur, and my question is, should I get an email address for my business, or is my current Gmail address okay to start with? So that's a great question. Like I said, we've had a fairly similar question before, probably 6 or 7 months ago. I'd have to go back through my recordings to check it. So here's my advice. My advice is, it's very inexpensive and very little amount of time to get a professional email address. I just think that having Gmail is not creating the image that you want for your business. If you haven't taken the time to create a professional business email address, then what does that say about the seriousness that you're taking your business? I mean, to me, Gmail is that's your personal email, that's your social email, but your business, I believe, right off the bat, you should absolutely create an an email address that reflects the name of your business. Now, you may be in the early stages where you haven't even figured out what that's going to look like in terms of what your brand is going to be. And if that's the case, then I would say, yeah, if you're just in the market research phase, then go ahead and use your Gmail account, because you're probably reaching out to friends and family anyway. But once you've hammered out what you actually want in terms of your brand, then I would say, yeah, go ahead and get a professional email. Okay, so let's just open the panel and see if we have any questions coming in through the chat. And it doesn't actually look like we do, which is okay, because we've got lots of questions to go through. Okay, so the next question is, hey Liz, I've been thinking about doing a free webinar to expand my reach for potential customers, but there seems to be so many of them out there. Is it worthwhile for me to create a free webinar, and what kind of a return can I expect? Yeah, there are a lot of free webinars out there. I do some myself in my own programs. So is it worthwhile to expand your reach? I would say absolutely it is, because we live in a world of online, and depending on the nature of your business, which you haven't told me, you are going to have a much greater impact potentially by expanding your business to reach people online. First of all, you have to have something amazing to talk about. You have to have great content. You are probably going to want to promote it through social media, so creating some sort of targeted advertisement so that you're actually attracting the kinds of ideal clients that you want would be highly recommended, because you really want to get those people interested. So what can you expect in terms of ROI? So that's a great question. I mean, there's a lot of business modeling in terms of what to expect, and it really, again, it depends on what you're doing. So a lot of free webinars will lead into a direct offer that you have a limited time to sign up for. So you go through the webinar, you have the potential to ask a few questions, and then it usually goes into an offer for whatever program you have. I don't recommend that you offer a program that's higher in value than $1,000, because your take rate is going to be much, much lower. So obviously the lower priced offer, the higher people are going to accept the offer when it's presented to them. The general rule of thumb for return on investment for webinars is usually between 5 to 10%. I would say 10% is at the very, very high end for very seasoned professionals who have been doing it over and over and over again. And 2% is probably more the average for people who are starting their webinar basically in the early stages of their business. So one of the key elements when you're looking at webinars is you have to do an enormous amount of follow-up, because for those people who don't accept the offer right away, you want to go back at least for a period of 10 to 14 days and leave the offer open and remind people of what the offer is. So people may not have been able to stay on the live webinar the whole time. They may want to review it. They may want to think about it. They may want to check out who you are. So don't be concerned if you don't get a lot of people who sign up right off the bat when you do your webinar. Keep it open. Keep the offer open for 10 to 14 days. And you'll probably get somewhere between 2 and 5%. The critical element there always is to have amazing content, as I said, and then to do fantastic follow-up, because people are inundated with information and they get a lot of offers, and you have to keep reminding them of the value of working with you. So hopefully that answers your question. And that's a great question, and we've never had a question like that before, so thank you for doing that. Okay. The next question is, I'm a massage therapist and healer, and I'm just starting my business. I don't have a lot of money to spend on keywords or search engine optimization. So what's the best way for me to drive traffic to my website? So thanks for the question. One of the best ways and the fastest ways to drive traffic to your website, if you're not going to do targeted advertising or keywords, is to create an awesome download. So sometimes we refer to this as a lead magnet. And one of the easiest ones to do is to create either a how-to guide or a tips and tricks guide. So you're a massage therapist and a healer. So one of the things that you might want to create is, a 2-page document on how to eat to maintain optimal health, or tips and tricks to keep your body limber and in the best shape that you can. The point is that what you want to do is you want to create something that's going to be of value to your target audience. And then probably what you want to do is post it through your social media channels. So how do we do this? We typically will take an excerpt or a tip or a paragraph from your downloadable how-to guide or tips and tricks guides, and put that on your social media channels with a link that says, want to find out more, go to my website, download the document. So that's actually driving people to your website. Obviously, you're going to want to capture their information. So you're going to have a pop-up that says, either put your name and email address in here and then download the whole thing, or you may want to have it in an open category such as a blog where you give the information for free, but you have already driven them to your website so they can see what kinds of services that you offer. So that's really the easiest way if you don't want to spend any money, if you're brand new. I have an amazing template on how to create how-to documents. Very, very simple. Again, happy to share that with anybody who's interested in that. Please email me and I will definitely get that document passed along to you. Next question is, will volunteering at events or groups help my business? I want to make sure that I use my time wisely, but I've heard this can be very useful. So, I highly recommend volunteering or mentoring or providing advice or expertise in your field if you're doing it in a group that is 50% or more of your overall target audience. So for example, yes, you can always volunteer your time and give back to the community, and that's great. That's what I would call social consciousness. It may or may not contribute directly to your overall business, but if you're going to do some real mentoring or volunteering, then I highly recommend that you do it within groups that have 50% or more of your target audience. It is great. The community will get to know you. You will get to know them. You will be perceived as caring about the community, obviously, because you're giving your time. But here's the thing, as I said before, it's really easy for entrepreneurs to get very distracted and to spread themselves too thin. And so while I highly applaud volunteer work, I want you to make sure that you're in a position in your business that you can really afford to spend the time. So one of the things that I would ask you is, let's say you're going to spend 4 hours a month volunteering your time. How else could you spend that time marketing your business that might have a greater impact. And I see this a lot where the social sort of consciousness, volunteer work versus volunteering within business communities, and that's really a call that you would have to make yourself. But there's no question that ultimately if you're volunteering within your target audience, that it ultimately will benefit your business in some way. So great question. So we've got time for one more question, and here it is. I'm thinking about leaving my full-time job and starting my own catering business. I've been doing it part-time for the last 4 years. So my question is, do I need to create a business plan? I don't know what percentage of people actually create business plans. I know I told you marketing plans is between 17 and 20%. I suspect it's probably smaller for business plans. So I would make this recommendation. I know for anyone who's looking for any sort of grant or government assistance or venture capital assistance or bank loans, you will absolutely have to create a business plan. And it's fairly comprehensive. There is a definite formula. It's one of the services that I offer, and I can certainly help you do that. But in those cases, you definitely want a very detailed business plan. For those people, so you're starting a catering business, you've been doing it for 4 years part-time. You know, you can do a very simplistic business plan that sort of maps out what your key objectives are going to be within the first year of your business. I certainly would work with some sort of financial advisor, planner, bookkeeper, or accountant so that you have a handle on what your expenses are going to be, what your potential revenue is going to be, and then what does your cash flow look like. So the general rule of thumb for starting a business is you want to have about 8 months worth of capital built up while you're starting your business. And so, you know, basically I'll leave it up to you. I think a business plan is a great idea, but I don't think it has to be 25 pages of detail if you're not looking for government or financial assistance. I would map out your major goals. I would have a cash flow analysis done. You have to identify your target audience, and then how are you going to generate leads? What sort of geography you're going to want to work within? Just some fundamental things like that. And again, the purpose of a business plan really is to guide your business for the first 12 months so that you stay on course and you have an idea of whether you're actually hitting your objectives or not. So, wow, we covered a lot today, and I always appreciate everybody taking their time out of their busy day, particularly since it's back to school for a lot of people, and we're just wrapping up the summer. Just as a final reminder that I do offer anyone who listens to these calls a complimentary strategy session so that we can help to get your business on track and get you to the next level of growth that you're looking for. So anybody who's interested, you can email me at lscott@affinitycoach.com and put complimentary strategy session in the header, and I will definitely get back to you and respond, and we can go ahead and set that up. And also, as a reminder that, as I mentioned before, we do these sessions once a month. So next month, our open mic marketing session is going to be October 18th. And we always run from noon to 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Feel free to share the link with anybody that you think might enjoy it and listen to it. And we have absolutely run out of time. But as always, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. I hope that you find that these sessions are very valuable to you. And I look forward to hearing from you in October. Have an amazing month, everybody. Take care.